Let's do this. One final time. Absolute Radiance is the greatest challenge Hollow Knight has to offer. The Radiance in her base form was a trial in and of herself, but now we see that an age of being trapped within the vessel dulled her power, her light. So now we have the privilege of facing her at her undiminished best, the blinding peak of her power. To say that Absolute Radiance is simply the Radiance but faster would be accurate, but it would be a grave disservice to the devious ways in which she's improved. One of the most apparent changes is the addition of a 6th phase. Her first 4 are all comparable to how they functioned in the original fight, each with 50 more HP than before. However, Phase 5 now ends as soon as you reach the top of the ascent, transitioning into Phase 6 without any need for you to hit her. Phase 6, the last resort, consists of only one attack, her new Orb Barrage, as she teleports around this arena composed of only 2 small platforms. You can be sure that the tension is tangible. Additionally, she has a unique property in that she cannot be defeated by anything but a strike from your nail. This was also true of the original fight, but it's much more pressing now that she has more than 1 HP up here. She can still be damaged by spells until she has 1 hit remaining, but she cannot be reduced below 1 HP by anything but your nail. But we'll go over all that in more detail when we talk about the Orb Barrage. Speaking of, all of the attacks we know have returned, each more dangerous than before. She has the Solar Beams, Sun Orbs, Sword Spiral, Sword Flurry, Sword Fall, Wall of Light, Beam Assault, and as mentioned, Orb Barrage. Look no further than the Solar Beams to see just what makes this fight so much more challenging than before. For all of Radiance's tricks, the one thing we could count on was her relatively generous telegraphs. No matter how many crazy attacks were on screen, you could at least see them coming well enough to get your feet under you. Not so here. The new and improved Solar Beams become dangerous a mere instant after their positions are shown. Like before, the second and third sets of beams will always fire at different orientations than the preceding set, so as long as you stand where a beam just was, you'll be safe. But as far as the first set goes, there's no trick, no subtle tell, you will just have to react. You may consider using Sprint Master just to give yourself that extra split second of grace. The Sun Orbs are cruelly fast, approximately double the speed they were before, and even better at cornering. Worse yet, the Radiance will now choose, at random, whether to summon 3 or 4 of them in a row. You'll have to stay sharp to make sure the 4th one never catches you off guard. Never assume there will only be 3. However, despite their greater stats, our strategy of evading them by jumping up, nail pogoing on the Radiance, and falling down feels more consistent with these orbs than it did with the slower ones. The exact reasons that might be are beyond me. Perhaps, given their incredibly tight turning radius, they don't swing around quite as much and are ultimately more predictable for it? Hard to say for sure. Regardless, don't forget about our backup plan in Descending Dark, especially if you can also rid the battlefield of the floor spikes while you're at it. Sword Spiral has probably received the most significant improvement of all her attacks, as they are summoned and launched far faster, and have gained a second wave to follow the first. This second wave will always be oriented exactly between the first, covering significantly more ground overall. Luckily, the second wave will always curve in the same direction as the first, so essentially, dodging it is very similar to dodging the later waves of Solar Beams. Simply stand somewhere where a sword from the first wave was, and you'll be safe. The biggest threat this change poses is once again in the 4th phase. As before, the initial summoning of the swords can be an extremely fast and dangerous hitbox if you are directly next to her on one of these platforms. Just as we did the first time, we're going to defuse this situation by ground pounding if she ever appears directly over us, but now you have to use your invincibility frames to position yourself between the second wave of swords as well. Absolute Radiance's Sword Flurry and Sword Fall attacks don't have anything new to them mechanically. They simply move much faster and spawn at quicker intervals. Though you should absolutely note that, while in the original fight there were always 4 waves of swords in the first 2 phases, now it's a tiny bit different. She will still always summon 4 waves of vertical swords when using Sword Fall, but she will only ever summon 3 horizontal waves with Sword Flurry. Don't let that trip you up. As before, Swordfall is her only attack in Phase 3. The intervals between swords are even shorter than they were in Phases 1 and 2, but otherwise there's not too much to say here, other than to once again urge you to resist the temptation to use spells on her during this phase. Swordfall remains the only attack she stops using after Phase 3, and Sword Flurry still only comes 2 waves at a time in Phase 4. The Wall of Light has probably changed the least out of all of her attacks, simply receiving a large increase to its speed. I will mention that you should probably be playing with enough volume that you can hear this attack coming. That shouldn't be a problem as it's quite loud, and impossible to confuse for any other sound effect, but every precaution helps. That brings us back to the Ascent, and her Beam Assault is, at the very least, not as wide of a hitbox as it used to be, but it is dramatically more rapid. Unlike before, you can't reasonably wait and jump between each beam fired. You'll have to brave them as you platform. The beams will switch from targeting the area around you to targeting you more directly at approximately the point you reach this platform, about halfway up the climb. Your strategy for climbing the first half should be to jump straight up, only moving horizontally while a beam is in place, to cover distance as quickly as possible. This is a preventative measure to keep you from jumping directly into a beam. And if a beam should happen to target you while you're jumping straight up, dash immediately, then recover and resume the pattern. After the beams switch to targeting you, you'll want to move left and right as much as possible as you jump, in order to draw the fire away from the platforms, giving you a clear path up. Finally, at the top, she begins her Orb Barrage. These orbs are more comparable to those from her original fight, being slower than the ones we dealt with down below, and they have one special property that will be our saving grace. They despawn when they go off screen. I don't know what merciful deity made that the case, but it is something that we are going to abuse to high heaven. One final time, we are going to abuse our key to a long life and happiness, nail pogos. Stay over top of Radiance and string together your nail pogos using both your dash and double jump, and you will barely have to pay attention to the onslaught of orbs, as their natural trajectories carry them safely off screen and out of our lives. Don't bother with anything else. Your final strike is mere seconds away. Our game plan is going to be significantly more cautious than that of our original Radiance fight. While in the first two phases, anytime she appears, give her a moment to begin an attack before charging in. If you strike first and ask questions later, you'll most likely be taking a Sword Spiral or Solar Beam to the face, as their telegraphs have been so significantly reduced. Phase 4 is the kicker. You will have to be extremely patient here, biding your time until she appears in an area that is convenient and uses an attack that is also convenient. The extra space you have to maneuver up here is your friend, especially against the Sun Orbs. Once again, our base of operations is going to be this top central platform. The 4 sweet spots she can appear are directly above this one, this one, this one, and this one. If she does appear there, use a Descending Dark to get right next to her, bypassing whatever she throws at you, and then unleash hell on her with slashes and Abyss Shrieks. If she appears anywhere else, just dodge carefully and take your time. Incidentally, these 2 side platforms can be easily reached from the top platform by dashing from the edge of it and using a Descending Dark. If I'm being honest, the true heart of this fight's difficulty isn't absolute Radiance. It's the pressure. It's the entire pantheon of Hallownest lying beneath you, and the looming threat of having to do it all again if the fight proves too much. The best thing you can do to alleviate that strain is pause and step away. Take a breath and know that it doesn't matter if she wins. You are relentless. No matter how strong she is, as long as you are willing to give it just one more shot, she can never truly triumph. You are the Void. You are the Hollow Knight. First, of course, we'll start with Ascended. Small mercies with Radiance here. Nothing changes except damage values. She doesn't gain extra HP. Her battlefield doesn't change in the slightest. She just does increased damage. Oh, I really thought I still had some time. And just for fun, I'm gonna go after this with the Fury of the Fallen equipped. For basically no reason. But hey, we might as well. It's our last hurrah. If she hits us twice, we are going to get a huge boost in damage and be able to take her down just that much faster. There it is. Can I skip phase 3? That'd be funny. Yeah, I can. Let's get to it. Yikes. Alright. Oh, shoot. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I jumped right into that. And that's that. Okay. Took a few more tries than I was hoping it would, but you knew it wouldn't stop there. Shout out to everyone out there whose list looks like this, by the way. Alright, let's prepare. We're not going to hold any punches against this. And I want as many spells as I can possibly have, so I'm going to replace Mark of Pride with Long Nail here, just so I can squeeze Spell Twister in with Soul Eater. Maybe a bit overkill, but I want to Desolate Dive my little heart out as we go in against Radiant Absolute Radiance. I don't think I can put it any better than to say that Radiant Absolute Radiance requires absolute patience. We will need to choose our every strike wisely. And I personally love just spamming as many Desolate Dives as I can possibly do to avoid having to even think about many of the otherwise very dangerous attacks that she would otherwise throw our way. She is being pretty heavy with the walls of light here. I think in this first phase, at least, one of the best things you can possibly know to do is to Desolate Dive or Descending Dark onto the spikes and use your invincibility frames to get rid of them. It gives you so much more room to maneuver. And once again, to me at least, this is the hard part. She is easy enough to avoid here, but when it comes time to actually hit her, she makes life difficult. Ah, alright. That was bound to happen. Oh, this is going really well already. Oop, nope, hang on. Wow, that was the fastest second, or fourth phase, or however many phases she has. That was lightning quick. Oop. And I choked. Alright, that's fine. That was embarrassing. I just fell right down. It's interesting, as you really get into the swing of things, none of her phases end up being that long. What ends up feeling like the longest part of the battle is just waiting for her to do her, like, battle start animation where the sun turns out to be her. This is where I want you. Never mind. Okay. No, we're fine. We're fine. Easy now, easy. Okay, easy, easy, easy breaths. Easy. Easy now. Okay, we got this. And of course, if you do not abuse the fact that these things disappear when they go off the top of the screen, what are you even doing? We have done it! Ha 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 ha! I don't want to hear it, Godseeker. That is way harder than beating the Pantheon. Ah. And that's it.
We have blitzed them all. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I wish you all happy hunting, and may no challenge be too great for you to overcome. I'd like to leave you all with one final thing. A reminder that we all start somewhere. No one begins their journey at the top. And so, in the spirit of that, I'd like to show you an old recording I have of the first time I ever beat Radiant Absolute Radiance.
Yikes. I'm so bad at this part. I'm really surprised I haven't died yet. Oh, my heart's pounding so hard. I can't handle this right now. I'm going to... Yeah!